Hello, my lovely peoples. Welcome to my channel, Horror Night, where every story hides a scream, and every silence tells a truth you were never meant to hear. If you are new here, please make sure to subscribe, comment, and share before the darkness finds you first. Dear listeners, now we move on to the next story of this episode of Horror Night. This one was collected by Hridoy Bai from a man named Imran, who lives in Kashmir, India. Hridoy Bai met Imran in the same labor camp in Qatar where they both stayed. Imran Bai is a dignified, soft-spoken man. He doesn't talk much, and when he does, he chooses his words carefully. During one conversation, Hridoy Bai asked him about ghost stories from Kashmir. Such a beautiful place, mountains, rivers, waterfalls, forests covered with snow. Do supernatural things even happen there? Imran Bai replied, yes, many scattered incidents do happen. Some believe them, some don't. Then he said there is a legend of Pahalgam. It's a local folk tale. Some people believe it, others call it superstition. Those who actually experienced it were the ones who spread it, and many claim to have seen it with their own eyes. Sometimes it harmed no one, sometimes it caused real damage. The story he told went like this. There is a road in Pahalgam where they say a terrifying churl, a female ghost or witch, appears. Anyone who encounters her faces disaster. No one knows exactly where she came from or how she was created, but many have reportedly seen her. Some even died after such encounters. Among these stories is the one that Imran Bai shared. He couldn't recall the exact time or all the real names, so Hridoy Bai used pseudonyms. Let's begin. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago. Two people, a man named Aniket and a woman named Kritika, lived in Chandigarh, India. They had known each other for years before marrying, and their married life was full of happiness. Since childhood, Kritika had one dream: to drive through the mountains of Kashmir to Pahalgam with her husband, enjoying the long roads, the villages nestled among the Himalayas, the serene natural beauty. That was her colorful dream. A few months after their marriage, they decided to make it real. After 2 days on the road, they reached Jammu. There, on a hillside, they stopped at a restaurant to rest and eat as evening approached. The restaurant owner asked, "Where are you headed now?" Aniket replied, "We're going to Pahalgam." The owner frowned. Now. At this hour, that's not wise. It's a mountain road. Landslides often block it. There are also multiple army checkpoints. They'll stop you, ask questions, maybe even send you back. And worse, there's the churl. If you ever fall into her clutches, it can be fatal. Hearing that, the owner continued, "You should stay the night here. We have good, safe hotels. Go in the morning instead." But Aniket and Kritika laughed. "You still believe such ghost stories in this age? This is the age of technology, of smartphones. We've driven long distances before. Night driving isn't a problem. We're used to mountain roads, too. These tales of witches are just imagination." The owner smiled gently and said, "All right then, go, but be careful." They paid the bill, filled the car's fuel tank, bought a local SIM card, and set off for Pahalgam. Night was just beginning to fall. The air was cool, stars filled the sky, and thin mist hung over the mountain slopes. Google Maps showed about 3 hours remaining to reach their destination. They passed through a long tunnel where the echo of the engine created an eerie resonance, a kind of musical vibration that almost sounded like a chant. Then the road opened onto a breathtaking path, mountains rising on one side, a narrow river gliding below, and thick forest beyond it. Inside the car, they played songs, talked, laughed, enjoying the trip. After a while, they noticed something strange. No other cars around. Earlier, some vehicles had passed them. Now there were none, ahead or behind. It was already after 9, maybe 10 o'clock. Suddenly they realized the road looked unfamiliar, different from what Google Maps had shown earlier. Their GPS had stopped working, and there was no mobile network. They were completely unsure where they were. While Aniket was driving along a curving mountain path, the steering suddenly felt heavier than normal. The engine sputtered twice, dock, and then died. He tried repeatedly, but the car wouldn't start. All around them was silence, deep, unnatural silence. Kritika held up her phone, trying to catch a signal. After much effort, she got a faint connection, enough to dial the police emergency number. She explained the situation, but couldn't give an exact location because the GPS was off. The officer on the line said, "Don't get out of the car. Stay inside. We'll try to trace your position and send help." Then the call dropped. They waited. The air was getting colder. Suddenly, Aniket noticed a light behind the car, faint but visible through the rear mirror. Excited, he said, "Kritika! Look, maybe that's the police coming to help us." But the light didn't move closer. It stayed far away. A single bright point, motionless. Aniket frowned. "Strange. It's not approaching," he said. "Maybe they can't find us exactly. I'll step out, wave my hands, show them." Kritika objected. "No, don't go. It's dark. We don't know this area." Aniket reassured her. "It's fine. It must be the police. I'll take this small knife. If anything happens, I'll call you." He opened the door and walked toward the light. Minutes passed. He didn't come back. Kritika sat alone inside the car, terrified. Then suddenly, bang, bang! Heavy thudding noises on the car roof, as if someone were striking it with a log. The whole vehicle shook. She screamed, calling Aniket's name again and again. No answer. Her panic grew unbearable. At last, she flung open the door and ran blindly into the darkness. She didn't know where she was running, just away. After some distance, she tripped and fell hard. Turning back toward the car, she froze in horror. In the dim moonlight and from the car's still glowing headlights, she saw a ghastly sight. Beside the car stood a tree. From one of its branches, the sharp end of the branch had pierced through Aniket's body. His torso impaled on it, his limbs hanging limp. And near that branch stood a female figure, her clothes torn, soaked in blood, her face mutilated, hair matted, skin ripped like it had been torn by wild animals. That branch, with Aniket's body, was moving up and down violently, and every time it hit the car roof, the loud thuds echoed. Kritika let out a piercing scream. The witch turned toward her. Kritika saw clearly. The witch's sari was stained with her husband's blood, dripping down her face. Although it was night, the moonlight and the car lights made it visible enough. Then everything went black as she fainted. When she regained consciousness, she was in a hospital bed. Her first question, "Where is Aniket?" No one answered at first. A nurse, eyes downcast, finally said, "Your husband is no longer alive." Later, the police told her they had traced the phone call location, reached the spot, and found the car. On its roof lay a man's mutilated body, and nearby, an unconscious woman, Kritika. They concluded these were the same people who had called for help. Experts examined the car, the engine, the fuel tank. Everything was fine. There was no mechanical fault. Officially, the police report stated that a wild mountain animal had attacked and killed Aniket because there were claw marks on the body, but villagers later said that no bloodstains were ever found on the tree branch afterward, even though his wounds proved something sharp and heavy had pierced him. The case shook everyone. People said this wasn't the first such event. That road in Pahalgam had seen many similar horrors. That churl became part of the region's folklore, a ghostly woman haunting travelers on that mountain road. People avoid that route after dark. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes great misfortune strikes. No one knows who she really was. Perhaps a spirit of a wronged woman, perhaps something darker, but her legend spread widely, and that is the story Imran Bhai told to Hridoy Bhai, who passed it on to us. Dear listeners, even in Nepal there are such roads, like the ones we discussed in Unresolved Mysteries episodes. In Bangladesh too, on the airport road, on the Chokoria stretch toward Cox's Bazar, and in certain hilly regions. Many claim similar paranormal presences exist. All over the world, there are roads where supernatural entities are said to bring calamity. May Allah protect us all. The Venezuelan legend of El Silbón, the Whistler. Dear listeners, now this legend was collected by Hridoy Bhai from his Nigerian colleague Victor, but the legend itself is not Nigerian. It comes from Venezuela, a South American country where many people still believe it. There have been cartoons, movies, dramas, even documentaries made about it. The name of this legend is El Silbón, which in English means the Whistler. In the wide grassy plains of Venezuela, called Los Llanos, there lived a small family of three, a father, a mother, and a son. The father was lazy, drunk, and irresponsible. He cared nothing for the family, and whether food was cooked or not meant nothing to him. He wasted every day in idleness and intoxication. Their son's name, according to legend, was Juan, though some sources call him Santiago. We'll call him Juan. Juan's father's nature had come from Juan's grandfather, who was equally cruel and idle, but Juan himself was different, hard-working and kind. From childhood, he had watched his father come home drunk every night and beat his mother mercilessly. The mother never complained. Her only concern was her son's future. Her own life was practically over. She was like a living corpse, but she worried that her son might grow up the same. She remembered how her husband's mother, Juan's grandmother, had suffered the same fate. Would Juan's future wife also live through such torment? She couldn't bear that thought. One day she told her son, "My child, leave this cursed village. Go to the city, work hard, and build your own life. Don't come back here." Juan obeyed. He moved to the city, worked hard, earned money, and secretly sent small amounts home to his mother. He knew that if his father discovered she was receiving money, he would steal it for gambling and drink. And indeed, his cunning father somehow found out, beat the mother, and took the money by force. Her misery never ended. Years later, Juan returned home, and what he saw shattered him. His mother was little more than skin and bone, like a skeleton covered with skin. He cried, "Mother, do you eat nothing?" After much questioning, she said softly, "He doesn't let me eat. When I try, he says there won't be enough food for him. He claims men need more food than women." Juan had learned cooking and many skills in the city. He went to the market, bought some beef, came home and cooked it himself. Rich, warm, spicy beef curry. He told his mother, "Ma, you set the plates. I'll feed you myself after a short walk." He went outside for a few minutes and met some friends, and their chat ran longer than planned. When he came back, what he saw filled him with rage. His father was devouring the beef alone, while his mother sat crying beside him. Juan shouted, "Father, I cooked that for Mother. Give her some." The father sneered, "Women don't need much food. Men's hunger is greater." That was the last straw. Blood rushed to Juan's head. He ran to the barn, grabbed a sharp butcher's knife, and with a single blow slashed his father's neck, severing the head from the body. Screaming, he yelled, "My mother starved, and you feast on meat? Here, eat this." Then, blinded by fury, he mutilated the corpse further, hacking the body into pieces. His mother, already broken in body and mind, watched her husband die by her son's hands. Horribly, she whispered to Juan, "Run away. Your grandfather will never forgive you. He's even more dangerous than your father. They won't let you live. Go!" Juan fled. His mother lost her speech from shock and went insane. When Juan's grandfather arrived and saw the scene, his son's body hacked apart. He was enraged. At first, he didn't know Juan had returned. Later, when villagers said they'd seen Juan, he realized who had done it. He sent men to the city to capture Juan. They found him easily and brought him back. The grandfather killed Juan with his own hands. Before killing him, he demanded, "Where is your father's body?" Because Juan had buried parts of it in a pit. When they dug it up, the old man saw the mutilated remains and went mad with grief and fury. He then uttered a terrible curse. "Your soul shall never find peace. You will wander forever, carrying your father's rotting bones on your back. You'll bear that sack of death wherever you go. You will never be free." Juan's body was placed in the same sack as his father's corpse. A sorcerer was summoned to perform dark magic to trap Juan's spirit inside that place. Years passed, everyone forgot. Juan's mother died. Her life had been pure misery. Perhaps God gave her peace at last. Then, long after all were gone, people in Los Llanos began hearing, in the dead of night, a mournful whistle drifting through the plains. Some said, "That's Juan's flute." They remembered he'd been a flute lover, so skilled that villagers had nicknamed him El Silbón, the Whistler. But this was no ordinary flute. It was said to be made from a human bone, a large bone drilled with holes through which he blew to make his eerie melody. Those who heard it were terrified. And there was a strange belief. If the whistle sounds far away, it means that he's right behind you. But if it sounds very close, it means he's actually far away. People claim to have seen him, a tall skeletal figure carrying a sack full of bones, from which oozed a horrible stench. Through holes in the sack, bits of bone poked out. One middle-aged man named Jose worked at a farm. After a long, tiring day, he headed home with an old torch in his hand. Suddenly, he heard that mournful whistle, sad, haunting, and strangely familiar. He froze. He thought, "That's Juan's whistle." He'd heard it in childhood, but Juan had been dead for years. Could a dead man return? As he stood paralyzed, the air grew heavy. Even the leaves stopped moving. Time itself seemed to hold still. Then he felt hot breath on the back of his neck. He slowly turned his head, and his scream froze in his throat. He couldn't make a sound. Behind him stood El Silbón, skinless face, hollow eyes like dark pits, carrying a sack of bones, and in the other hand, the bone flute. He blew into it, and the sound pierced like a knife directly through Jose's brain. El Silbón whispered, "Tell everyone, I've returned. I'll meet them all." Then Jose lost consciousness. The next morning, villagers found him collapsed on the ground. When he awoke, he kept muttering, "El Silbón! El Silbón!" and told them everything. After that, others too began hearing strange footsteps behind their houses at night. The stench of rotten bones, dogs howling, unknown growls, signs that El Silbón was near. Another man named Pedro lived in the same region, a drunk and a wife-beater. Everyone despised him, but no one dared confront him. One night, drunk as usual, he staggered home across an empty field. A faint whistle floated on the wind. He ignored it. Maybe children playing, he thought. But the whistle grew louder, more sorrowful, as if the flute itself were crying. A chill ran through his body. Suddenly he felt something cold drop around his neck, like a necklace made of bone. He spun around, no one there. Then a gust of wind, and El Silbón appeared before him. Blood-stained, torn clothes, hideous face reeking of decay, eyes like rotting flesh. El Silbón stepped forward slowly and hissed, "You are just like my father. You beat your wife. Now you will hear the melody of death." He laughed, a scream that shook the air. Pedro collapsed, trembling violently, whispering, El Silbon! El Silbon! Farm workers nearby heard his cries, ran over, and found him convulsing. They carried him back, but soon he began vomiting blood and died. On his neck hung that same small bone necklace. After Pedro's death, terror swept through the whole village. People whispered that El Silbon had returned. Every night someone claimed to hear the whistle, the heavy footsteps, or the growling of unseen dogs. And every morning someone would find blood marks or a strange necklace of bones near a doorway. Villagers could no longer sleep. They believed the whistler struck mainly at men who mistreated their families, just like his own father had. The strangest part was this. Each dead man's body had a small bone necklace around his neck. No one knew why. Was it proof of an evil spirit? Or the work of some human murderer pretending to be El Silbon? The people finally decided they had to stop the curse somehow, but no one dared to try. Then, one night, an old priest stepped forward. He said that he would attempt to end it through exorcism. The priest's attempt. That night, the priest began his ritual with candles, holy water, and Latin prayers. He stood in the middle of the village square while others gathered around, trembling. As he prayed, the air grew colder. The candles flickered wildly, and then everything fell silent. So silent that people said the silence itself felt alive. Moments later, a piercing whistle echoed through the darkness. The ground shuddered. The priest lifted his cross and shouted the final words of his exorcism. But before anyone could see what happened, there was a blinding flash. The villagers ran away in panic. At dawn, they found the priest dead in the same spot. On the ground beside him were words drawn in ash. This flute did not come to be silenced. Days later, a mysterious man arrived, a sorcerer with silver eyes and a long white-gray beard. He carried a staff and was followed by a black dog with glowing red eyes. People said the dog was no normal creature. It looked more like a demon disguised as an animal. The sorcerer announced, "I have come to imprison the Whistler, to lock him forever inside a deserted well. Only then will the people sleep again." At midnight, he began the ritual. The moon was full, but the wind had stopped. The whole world seemed to be holding its breath. He drew a circle of symbols on the ground and lit a fire that burned with black flames. Thick smoke rolled across the grass. Suddenly, a trembling passed through the earth. Not a sound of thunder, but of something awakening below. The whistle began again, soft at first, then sharper and sharper until it pierced every ear. People clutched their heads. Some said their eardrums burst and bled. The sorcerer realized El Silbon is coming. Through the smoke emerged a tall, skeleton-thin figure carrying the rotting sack of bones, leaking a foul stench, taking slow, deliberate steps. The red-eyed dog growled, but then whimpered and ran away in terror. El Silbon stopped before the circle and said in a deep, echoing voice, "Who are you, old man, to bind me?" The sorcerer's hands shook, but he raised his staff and tried to chant louder. El Silbon laughed, a laughter that cracked the night like lightning. He lifted the bone flute to his lips and played. The sound was so sharp that the black fire went out instantly, and the smoke vanished. When the villagers dared to look again, El Silbon was gone. The sorcerer lay collapsed on the ground, barely breathing. The dying confession. At sunrise, he was carried home. In a trembling voice, he said, "This creature is not like any spirit or demon I have faced. Even my dog, which fears no jinn, ran from him. He is beyond my power. Seek someone stronger. I must go." Then he left the village, never to return. A few days later, his body was found inside his own hut, dead, a deep knife wound in his chest. The strangest thing was that the killer was his own son. People wondered, why would a son murder his father? Some said that the same curse that drove Juan to kill his father had now possessed the sorcerer's son. They believed El Silbon's influence had spread once again. Time passed. The terror continued. Villagers sought help from far and wide. Most shamans refused. They had heard what had happened to the others. Finally, from Mexico, a powerful tantric agreed to come. He was a strange man. He traveled with 3 black dogs and carried a large sack filled with strange objects: salt, charcoal, Palo Santo wood, and incense sticks. He told them, "These are sacred. Together with my dogs, they can weaken this powerful spirit." El Silbon fears the cry of certain dogs. That is the only sound that can drive him back. When asked why the previous sorcerer's dog had fled, he explained, "That one was fierce but ordinary. Mine are of a special breed, trained for spirits. Their roar can shake demons." At night, under a red moon, the Mexican sorcerer began. He drew a red circle on the ground and placed his 3 dogs at 3 points around it. He lit the incense, and smoke began to swirl inside the circle. His goal, to trap El Silbon inside an ancient well and seal it forever. The same ancient method used to imprison violent spirits. As the chanting rose, the earth trembled again, heavier than before. The whistle returned louder and louder until it became unbearable. People's ears bled. The sorcerer shouted, "Come, El Silbon, I have come for you." From the shadows he appeared, taller than any man, skinless, hollow-eyed, and the sack of bones swinging on his back. When the dogs saw him, they charged, snarling and howling with fury. El Silbon stepped backward, covering his ears from the noise. It was the one sound he could not bear. The 3 dogs drove him toward the edge of the old well. At last, with a terrible shriek, El Silbon fell into it. The whistling stopped. The sorcerer quickly threw salt and Palo Santo wood into the hole and began the sealing chant. When it was done, he told the villagers, "He is not dead, only trapped. Someday he may rise again. When he does, he will be even more terrible." As the final words of the spell echoed, those standing near the well swore they heard a voice whispering from the depths, "I will return. I will return. I will return." Moments later, the ground caved in. The well disappeared under the soil. No one could ever find it again. Years went by. No one could say where the well was buried. Perhaps a building would one day be built upon it, and the hidden well would break open, releasing El Silbon once more. Venezuelans still tell the story in their own cultural and spiritual way. According to their belief, El Silbon hunts those who neglect or abuse their families, men like his own father. From a religious point of view, we know the dead cannot truly return. Perhaps, as some think, the dark magic used to imprison Juan's spirit had bound something far worse, a demonic entity taking his form, or perhaps humans, disguised as the Whistler, committed the murders. No one knows. What is known is that every exorcist who tried to defeat him died mysteriously, and the only one who succeeded merely contained him. If anyone challenges him again, he finishes the game, not the sorcerer. And so the people say, if you ever travel alone across the silent plains of Venezuela at night, and you hear a faint sorrowful whistle drifting through the air, remember this warning. If the sound seems distant, he's right behind you. And if it seems close to your ear, he is far away. For now, no one knows when he will return, but somewhere beneath the ground in a forgotten well, sealed with blood and salt, the Whistler waits, still clutching his father's bones, still playing his bone flute, still whispering, "I will come back." Dear listeners, the people of Venezuela believe this story deeply, as part of their culture and folklore. We know that when a person dies, they cannot return, but their stories can travel through centuries. Perhaps El Silbon is not just a ghost, but a warning. a symbol of what happens when cruelty and violence live too long in a family. Even today, many families suffer from domestic abuse, and silence allows it to grow like a curse. That is the true horror behind the legend of El Silbón, the Whistler. Dear listeners, now we move on to the next story of this episode of Horror Night.
It was shared by a man named Victor, a Christian living in southern Nigeria. What you're about to hear is a true story from his own region, a quiet, naturally beautiful place called Odugbolu, or Odugbali, as locals pronounce it. Most of the people there live by farming and small business. Though the majority are Christians, they still believe deeply in black magic and superstition. There are countless local tales of the supernatural that circulate among villagers. The village market was the center of their lives, the hub for trade and conversation. Everyone looked forward to Saturday evenings because that was when business was best. Sunday for Christians is a holy day. The people there believe that on Sundays the Holy Spirit returns to bless them, so the day is spent in prayer and rest. That's why everyone shops on Saturday night, to have good food and peace on Sunday. Among the shopkeepers was a woman named Naomi, Victor's friend. She ran a small grocery store in the Odugbolu market. The terrifying incident that you're about to hear happened to her around 2017 or 2018. Naomi's shop was far from her home. Every day she rode her motorcycle back and forth between the two. Saturdays were always long and busy, since Sunday was a weekly holiday in Nigeria. That evening, after finishing her business late, Naomi decided to buy some things for her home. Most of the market crowd had already left, but she thought, let me grab a few things before going back. Tomorrow, I want to cook something special. She decided to buy 2 black chickens, rare, expensive, and considered a delicacy. Now, in Africa, India, and even Bangladesh, these black chickens exist. Their feathers, comb, legs, even the pupils of their eyes are dark. They're often used in black magic rituals because people believe they hold supernatural power. But Naomi bought them only for food, not for magic. She tied the chickens and her grocery bag onto the rear carrier of her motorcycle, started the engine, and began her ride home. It was around 11 o'clock or 11:30 p.m. That's not too late by modern standards. The streets were dimly lit but not completely dark. However, something unusual had happened that night. It had rained after sunset. The rain left the roads full of mud and puddles, and some routes had become nearly impassable. Naomi knew that the main road to her house would be muddy and full of holes. Her motorcycle's engine already had a few issues. If it stalled in the mud, she'd have to push it through by hand. So she made a risky decision. She would take the shortcut road that passed beside the cemetery. Now, this cemetery was for local Christians, and even during the day, people avoided it. Huge old trees surrounded it, their roots breaking through the road in many places. Because of those roots, cars and bikes often got stuck. The government had repaired the road several times, but the roots kept breaking through again. Finally, since few people used the road, they stopped maintaining it altogether. Naomi thought, at least this road is higher ground. The rainwater won't collect here. It's rough, but I can manage. And it's a shortcut. So she took the turn and entered the cemetery road. It was silent. She rode on for a few minutes, and just as she passed the cemetery boundary, she suddenly noticed something. By the side of a large tree, in the dim light of her motorcycle's headlamp, someone was standing, wearing white clothing. The beam of her headlight spread slightly to the sides, enough for her to see outlines beyond the main path. She could clearly tell. A person was there. Instinctively, Naomi turned the handlebar slightly left to aim the light directly at the figure. And instantly, it vanished. Startled, she straightened the bike again. And now she saw the figure standing on the other side of the road. She turned left, gone, straightened. There again. It happened 2-3 times. At that point, Naomi realized she had stumbled into something dangerous. She began whispering Bible verses under her breath and sped up, trying not to look at the thing. But moments later, she felt something soft wrapping around her waist, slowly creeping upward toward her neck. Then it coiled around her arms, tightening near her hands on the handlebars. It felt like long, silky hair, cold, smooth, and unnatural. Suddenly, 2 icy hands rested on her shoulders. Terrified, Naomi turned her head and saw it. A ghastly figure in white. Its eyes were hollow black pits with smoke curling out of them. Its teeth were uneven and sharp, its lips torn, and its face half-burnt. Naomi screamed. She lost control of the bike. It skidded off the road and crashed beside a tree trunk. As she hit the ground, she felt something grab her hair and pull, and then heard a deep, cold voice, speaking in the local dialect, saying, "Where will you run? Give me your chickens." Then everything went dark. When Naomi didn't return home, her family began to worry. They searched, asking people in the market, then finally decided to follow the same road, the one by the cemetery. A few villagers went with them, carrying torches. And there, near a tree, they found her fallen motorcycle and Naomi unconscious beside it. They brought her home, and the next morning, when she regained consciousness, she told them everything. The white figure, the feeling, the voice. Her family took her to a local church to see a pastor. The pastor listened carefully and said, "You were carrying black chickens. Those often attract dark spirits. And you rode through a sensitive place, the cemetery. The spirit only wanted your chickens, not your life." He performed a cleansing prayer according to Christian tradition and confirmed afterward that no spirit had possessed her. Later, they discovered that the 2 chickens were missing, gone without a trace. Though Naomi wasn't physically injured, the shock and fear shook her deeply. She took several months to recover mentally. Eventually, she healed and returned to normal life, but she never again took that road. Victor said that as far as he knows, no similar incident ever happened to her again. That night's horror stood alone.
Thank you for watching till the end. Tonight, I'm leaving for now, but I'll return soon with another true story from the dark. Don't forget to comment what you want next. What should I add and what should I delete in the next video? And of course, subscribe, share, and stay awake, because the next story might find you first.